going on, fam? We back again. Show number 2, dealing with fatherhood, because it's so important. We sitting here, 4 Black fathers. So our topic again is going to be fatherhood, challenges and triumphs. I wanted to do this show because it's something that's needed. As Black fathers, we always face this stigma that we trying to, to get away from. But I'm here with brothers that we doing it and we doing the very best we can. And that is something that we don't necessarily need accolades for, but at the same time, this is where we've come from. So I've got 2 special guests with me today. I got Justin Trapp sitting over here, who just happens to be related to one of our co-host. It ain't me. Anyway. And we've got Alonzo Marshall here. Again, we've known each other for decades, and that's one of the things that's, to me, it's a tenet for being a successful Black father is that support system. So, we all lean on each other. We all talk about things, the good and the bad. The first thing I want to talk about, though, is fatherhood. So, Alonzo, tell me what fatherhood means to you.
Responsibility, love, providership. As a father, you take on the responsibility of raising and rearing a child to the best of your ideology, but also what you think that child wants to be. Because we all have these concepts that, hey, my son or daughter is going to be this or that, but that might be totally opposite of what they want to do. That definitely happened in my case. But I'll just say that you have to support your child in their dreams. You can't live your dream. You have to support your dream. But you raise them, many things, there has to be, because we are Christians. I believe you have to raise them in a Christian household, and then you have to raise them in a respectable household. You have to teach them to be respectable to all children. To all people and others. And that's part of being a father.
Okay. Justin, what does father? Man, forget the Justin. Jay.
Thank you, because that just sounded crazy.
Like you in court.
Right.
Jay, so what does fatherhood mean to you?
To me, fatherhood is being present. Yes. I think being there for your kids, and like you were saying, Alonzo, it's gonna be tough to say. Being there and learning them and knowing what they're into and what they're going through, everything, just being there and being in whatever they're in, whatever they're into, whatever they're down with, that's what you want to kind of be around for. So, and also they learn from example too. So when you're present and you see how you act, or they see how you act, then they're going to start acting that way. Mm-hmm. I would come into places and I would take my hat off, and then I would turn around and I would see my son. He'd take his hat off, things like that. So it's things that you're teaching them, not even having to say anything. Mm-hmm. So just being there, I think it helps 100%, and being helpful, just being around.
Okay. Real quick, the 3 of us have something in common. Both of you guys are stepfathers. Yes. I'm a stepfather. And I had to look up this, and it floored me, because I don't know if y'all know, but the term step parent came to be, I think it was the 8th century. Mm. And it's a old Latin English word. So step is actually orphan. So step parent is parent of an orphan. Mm. So I said to myself, well, it makes sense, but at the same time, we've been dealing with this since the 8th century.
Right.
And then I said, you know what? There's always been a negative connotation with step parents. You remember as kids, yep. You a bald-headed stepchild. Mm-hmm. Right. That was an insult.
Right.
And then as I dug deeper into it, come to find out that negative connotation came from more or less the parents not being on the same page. Yes. In terms of raising the kid. Right. So then where the step parent would say, my stepchild is bad. No, your stepchild ain't bad. It's just that you and the parent aren't on the same page. Mm-hmm. The child is saying my step parent is bad. Not because they actually are, but because that's a different type of parenting style that they have. Right. So for me, being a step parent, I have learned that it took me and my wife having to get on the same page in
Definitely.
regards to that. So,
Definitely.
I'll say to you guys, I know it's been a learning curve, but you seem to have mastered it. So how, and Alonzo, forget it. This is Tony.
Yes, sir.
So we gonna dismiss
Right,
the
right.
government names
Right.
now. But Tony, tell me, I mean, how was the transition for you and your wife?
That's a great question. So when we first of all, I step parent, being a parent, and when you take on that role to be a step parent, I think there's a certain amount of love that you have to have for that child before you can even say I do. Because I've had friends who had no relationship with the child prior to getting married, and then it caused major conflicts later.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
So if you don't have a relationship with that child before the marriage, it's going to be a struggle. So fast forward, I got married. When I got married, our daughter was 8 years old, but I had been in her life since she was 2. Okay. And when we got married, as all children do, she tried to play those games, put one against the other, And I went to my wife and I said, listen, we've made an agreement that we're going to raise the child and I'm going to be her dad. So this is our child. So we can't argue amongst each other. Even if we don't agree, we need to let her see us as one unit, and then we can talk about it behind closed doors or when she's asleep and resolve it that way. I said, but never confront me in front of her. I'll never confront you in front of her, and we'll talk about it separately and independently. Ultimately, yes, she is your child. She is your birthright, and you may have the final say, but you need to at least listen to what I have to say and understand where I'm coming from. One of the biggest arguments we ever had, we bought a house, and I have a daughter. So I didn't care that she was a girl. She was gonna get out there and cut grass with me, just like if I had a son. But I did it not as a punishment or as a lesson. My theory was, you're a female. One day you may have a husband or a wife or a significant other, or you may hire someone to do this work. You need to know how it's done right and wrong. So I made her cut the grass till I knew she knew how to do it. I made her clean gutters till I knew once she showed me she could do it, I took it away from her. I just wanted her to know that skill set. So my wife thought I was trying to make her do something that I didn't want to do, that I was just being lazy, and I was like, no. You don't understand the lessons that I'm trying to sow now that they will benefit later. Fast forward later, my daughter rented her own first house. She came over and borrowed my lawnmower and cut her own grass. And I was like, I was so proud of her that she even asked, like, sure, honey, what you need? Whatever you need, I got it for you. Let's do it. And she did it for a while until she got someone else where she could afford to pay for it herself. But again, I told her, that's why I wanted you to do it, because then you would know when someone wasn't doing it right or wrong.
Right. And that's why I say it's important for the parents to talk.
Yeah.
And because you don't want to be stuck in the middle where, the kid, they see if there's a crack.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
children are
I remember
manipulators.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. One of the things that
they're smart, but
no, I thought that's where it was going too. No.
Smart manipulators.
Manipulators. Yeah.
I remember one of the things that someone said to me, family member, when I became a step parent, was, watch out, because at some point that kid is going to be like, you're not my daddy.
Yes. Yes.
And of course, I thought my mind immediately went to The Color Purple. But anyway.
Right.
So, Jay, tell me, how has the transition gone for you? And first, let me say this. Was it what you thought it was going to be?
No, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but in a positive way. I thought it was going to be more stressful. I thought he was going to be more rebellious. But my wife taught him to respect your elders no matter who they are. So we didn't have that conflict too much. There were some times when he was like, like when he was younger, he coming again? Like, I see you're going to be here and everything. But now, as he got older and he understood, it was more of just like, I understand that you love my mother like I love my mother. So as long as we ain't got no beef or no, you're not talking to her crazy or anything like that, then we're good. So
He didn't say that to you though, did he?
no, he never said that to me.
Hey, listen here, brother.
No,
Right.
He never said it, but it was like to the point where I was like, he saw how I treated his mother, and it was like, okay, we're good. We didn't argue, and if we did have conversations, it was like way away from where he was, so he didn't even feel it. Now, going back to your first point, what was it? What was the first thing you asked? I forgot already, but
yeah,
but regardless, we'll figure it out. But long and short, though, like I was in his life when he was started like around like 6, 7 years old. We got married. He was 10, going on 11, and it was kind of in that time where it's like 4th, 5th grade, and he's trying to figure himself out and what he wants and what he likes and everything. But I let my wife do like the quarterbacking, basically. Like I had no problem with how she was raising him, and it was kind of a crazy time too, because right around the time when I was like, dating his mom, her brother was living with her, and that was like the father figure in the house. He left and went to Texas, and so he had no male figure in the house anymore. So he wasn't like lashing out or wilding out anything, but it was like kind of perfect timing where I could come in and kind of just help out a little bit. But overall, I would let wife go ahead, quarterback everything, and everything was good.
So was that a conversation that you guys had prior? Well, let's talk together, and I'm gonna let you take the lead, and I'm in the background, or is it something that just came up when a particular situation arose?
It just came up. It was something that she was used to. I wasn't used to. I didn't know how to kind of react to things, but she knew how to handle her son. So then after that, she would say, "Well, sometimes this is how he likes this and does that," and now I learned from that. So next time he does that, I can kind of course correct and kind of say, "Hey, I know that you like it this way, whatever the case may be." So, but it was more just her leading, and then I'm just there learning, just like he's learning at the same time.
Now, one of the things that happened to me, and I want to see if you both had to deal with this, is the first time that you had to put your foot down, and whether or not that created any type of discord with your partner. So, Tony, we'll start with you.
Actually, no. In fact, my daughter did something really silly. She was shooting spitballs during the lunchroom. We all did that.
I did it.
And, right, and she got in trouble and got detention or whatever. But then she tried to lie about it. Okay, so at that particular time, I was picking her up from school, and I would bring her home. Start our homework, start preparing dinner because my wife didn't get off till like 7. So I didn't, especially because she was a girl too, I didn't know I didn't want to whoop her because I was kind of leery, like, I might be too hard, but that particular time I was like, it's not, you getting a whooping not before the spitball. In fact, I think that was kind of funny. I probably let you off when you said nothing about it. I said, but you lied to the teacher, then you lied to me about it. Because she came home and told me the teacher accused her of something, and she, was wrong. And I was getting ready to get up the next morning and go to the school. I was going in there like, Papa Bear, attack. And the teacher actually called me on my cell phone when I was in the car on the way. And I said, oh, okay. I'll tell you what, just send her home up at her regular time, act as though nothing happened, because she was going to let her do detention that night. I said, no. She need to have detention at home first. Then we'll have detention at the school. So when she got home, I told her, I suggest you go in there and take your school clothes off, and you might want to put on 2 or 3 pair of jeans because it's about to be an issue. I only hit her like 2 or 3 times, but as you hear this when you're a child and you don't believe it, your grandparents are quick to say, it's going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. It really did. A thing in my heart hurt me because I was like, I didn't plan and vision to do this. But when my wife came home and heard the story, she was like the Tasmanian devil. She was ready. I was like, hey. I was like, listen. And, we because we talking about stepfathers, I was like, listen, I don't want to be on tonight's news talking about the stepdaddy did this.
Right.
So you need to, bring it down a notch. Because she was set it off. She was ready. And I was like, no. You do what you're doing, but keep it to a level. So, we got through that, and then we talked that night. And again, I was laughing then about it, like, I thought it was funny, spitballs is just part of growing up. If she had just came home and said, yeah, daddy, I did it, I'd have been like, all right, you're going to do your detention and we done. Just don't do it again or don't get caught. One or the other, but, so it was a blessing in a way that it happened because that was truly a first mutual agreement that we had on raising her and how she should be disciplined in the situation. And again, my wife was angry too about the lie, not about the actual act, but you tried to cover up after you did it. Whatever you do, just take responsibility and then we'll deal with it that way. You could have had a simple punishment and been over with, So, like I said, that was the scenario we had.
Jay, what about you? The first time that you had to put your foot down, and did it cause an issue with you and the missus?
Overall, didn't have too many times that I had to put my foot down.
Do you remember the first time?
I do remember the first time, and it was just it wasn't like he was in trouble in school, whatever. But like he dropped some money, and I was like, oh, look, I found $5. Okay, it's mine, just playing around, and he took it, like he snatched it from me, and then he swung, like trying to hit me. So I went back and I did some old WWF move and slammed him on the ground real hard. And I said, man, I'm just playing. I don't need your money, man. You don't swing at me ever again. And my wife was sitting there kind of looking like, oh my God.
I didn't know he had anger issues.
right. Just don't swing on me. But after that, it was kind of cool. And I'd let her know. I was like, this is just like, that was just a warning shot in a way. Just saying, I didn't want to hit him, not going to hit him. Right. But it was more to a point where it's like, okay, you're going to respect everyone in this house. Right. They're in the same way. And after that, everything was kind of cool.
So that was his baby boy moment.
That was his baby boy moment.
Yes. Yeah, youngster.
Yes. After that, everything was pretty cool. But, I think that was kind of the main thing. Overall, like, he had his problems in school as far as like in middle school, like everyone has like, the bullies or the, trying to be the cool kid and doing too many things and everything like that. And then we just told him, yo, man, like, you need to be yourself. Don't hang around these folks. And it's a funny story. Like we went to birthday parties and everything. Like we would do stuff for him. And it was like one birthday party. It was his 13th birthday party. We got him like a shuttle bus with all his friends. They went to like Zap Zone and all these other places, whatever. And it was one kid. Everybody thought he was so cool. He's so cool. He's cool. I think that he's spending 10 years in prison right now. And
I wonder, is he the cool guy in prison?
Right. It was like, well, what a cool girl.
Right.
But regardless, like, we're seeing that and we're like, Exhibit A. And he saw it and he gets, okay, now I need to just be myself. And then they keep it moving. So
can I circle back on something here? What Jay said earlier about being present. After my first encounter, and maybe yours as well, I think the children, if you continue to be present, good and bad, it changes them a lot.
Yeah.
Because once she saw, I can say from the time we got married to the time she graduated high school, I never missed an event. Teachers meeting, band, orchestra, choir, even road trips with the school. I've been to Toledo Zoo and all different places with her, except for two. And the two I missed was bad planning on the school's part. They told me that they were going to Florida and then they were going to go to Birmingham, and I couldn't afford both. But Birmingham was the Nationals, so I said, "Well, I'll go to Nationals, not to go to Florida." They did Florida, and then they said, "Oh, we short of money. We're not going to Birmingham." So that was why I didn't go to Birmingham.
Wow.
You brought up a good point too, Tony, and I think this bodes her parents. As I can remember coming up and playing in a band, and my mom being at every performance.
Yep.
And that, it meant the world to me. And I would have friends that would be like, man, your mom always here.
Mhm.
But they didn't have their parents there.
Mhm.
And what that did for me was I said to myself, you know, I took it for granted, first of all,
Yes.
because she was
Right.
always there.
Absolutely.
She your mom. So right.
But
you-
as I
absolutely.
grew and I'm looking back like, wow. So of course, you know, almost innately, whenever my kids are doing something, I'm front and center.
because that's
You
what
know,
you know.
for my youngest, when he was playing football and in sports, I told him I will be at every event
Yep.
unless I'm out of town.
Yes.
You know, on business
Yes.
or whatever the case may be. So
Yes.
I think that's very important. And just to segue real quick, can you guys remember when you got over that proverbial hump where you said, okay, I'm settling into this, you know, we cool now.
Yeah.
They see me
Yeah.
as their parent.
I-
I see them as my child.
You know, going just what you said about marching band. So, actually, she was 8th grade. She was in marching band in her middle school, and I don't know, some idea made her mad. I don't know. So she went to school and was complaining, and a young lady, little classmate of hers who lived down the street from us, said, "I hear you talking about Mr. Marshall, but I ain't never seen your daddy. Where he at? Mr. Marshall been here for everything, so that's your daddy to me. So it sounds like the problem's with you, not him." She came home and she told my wife. She didn't tell me. She told my wife, and my wife told me. I almost brought a tear to my eye because I was like, if other kids are seeing my presence, you know, because the little girl who I'm referencing, father wasn't in the house. So, like you said, she was appreciating that I was there at all the things. And that appreciation by her and her talking directly to my daughter like that changed her perspective on me, because then I think she started to see me as like, well, yeah, I guess he is here all the time. You know, he is doing all that. And it was at that point going forward, I think we almost stopped being father and daughter. We almost were becoming, you know, friends as well. You know, I shouldn't say stop, but, you know, it grew into, you know, mutual understanding and friendship. So, you know, 15 is always, I don't tell people, a special year. She got a little funky that year. But that was the point where I knew I was like, okay, yeah, I'm good. You know, she understands that, I'm her, dad, and that's what she's always called me and everything. But now I think she really mean it. You know, she wasn't just saying it because she was told to say that or whatever.
So Jay, same question. When did you get over that hump? And when you did get over the hump, were you emotional just like Tony?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Montel. There was it was around the same time. No, it was like a teenage time, and he would always go to his mother and ask questions or sit down and everything, and he would start coming downstairs, and watching the game with me, asking questions about, because he played basketball, so he was a basketball head for ever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Ever.
Still hooping, still now. But yeah, he would come down. We would just talk just like friends, not like father and son and everything. And he would then start like inviting me into, when he's having a conversation with his friends on over here. Justin, come here real quick. I'm gonna ask you something real quick. What do you think about this? And then I'm saying something, and then everybody starts, So he's inviting me into his circle and into his friends. So that was a good thing. And also hearing from my wife about him talking about me. That's what gets me more emotional, because his father and their side of the family are like, they come around for the big events. 8th grade graduation, high school graduation.
Come around, poking their chest out.
Yes.
And yeah, college graduation. When he graduated, I'm proud to say he's a graduate of Morehouse College.
Morehouse man, shout out.
Yeah,
all right.
Morehouse man.
Yes.
And because he did that, and with 4 years, my wife said, we did that. Like it's our stuff, because I was helping you out as well. But then it was, what we wearing? Where are we going? What are we wearing? Matching outfits? Because the family's here and we proud to be here. It's like, you guys were not around. So that was kind of a thing going back to him too. Was like he's had a little struggle with like wanting his biological father to be in his life, but it was always something that, like, he didn't come to any of his basketball. I mean, he played basketball from 5th grade until 12th grade. Did not make one game. Went to the state championship. Won a state championship. Didn't come to see and celebrate any of that. So like he still I think still had struggles with, having his father in his life and everything, and wanting to do right and having some kind of relationship.
And see, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I had a situation with my first stepson and his biological father. He and I were at odds for a couple of years, but then he came to me. Number one, he apologized for, being disrespectful in the past. But number two, he thanked me for being there.
Yes.
Because he wasn't. So had you ever had an aha moment like that?
Absolutely. He would thank me every 4 years. So eighth grade graduation. Hey man, thank you so much for taking care of my son. And all right, man. 12th grade at the open house. Hey man, thank you so much, man. Your brother's going to Morehouse. Graduated Morehouse. Man, I can't thank you enough. I said, well, he's like only a 4-hour drive away.
Right.
He's an hour flight away. If you ever wanted to go and see him from Michigan to Illinois, or you came down here to Atlanta for the graduation, why couldn't you come down any other time just to go kick it with him and see what's going on?
I had the same situation with my daughter's father. He's been around. Now he has multiple other kids.
Okay.
So that.
So does he.
So.
It's like the Wu-Tang Clan.
Right. So, 15 year.
Mm-hmm.
She said something about wanting something, and I was like, no, I've always been, you just don't automatically give. You have to achieve to get.
Yes.
If we put something in front of you and you do it, it's yours. I used to tell all the time, straight A's get you anything you want. Straight A's get you whatever you want. Straight A's, you want it, get straight A's, you can have it. Okay. So.
Now, let me ask you real quick, though. Did you have intentions on giving it, or did you think, she ain't going to never make straight A's?
No, I was going to give it to her. Oh. No. And she came close a couple times. Really.
Yeah.
Right. For real.
I
don't know.
Right. Bruh. Right. So at 15, she wanted something, and I was like, no, you can't have it. And then she's like, well, why can't we use my child support payment? Man, I reached in my pocket, got a penny, and I flicked it at her. I said, catch that. She caught it. I said, that's how much your daddy done gave child support in your life.
Man, listen.
So now, if you think I'm lying to you, go talk to your mother about it. So you can stop that right there. I said, your dad's contribution has nothing to do in this house. In this house, I take care of everything. Mm-hmm. You ain't got to, no, we're not going to have that conversation. So I don't know if she reached out to him or my wife reached out to him, but all of a sudden he just popped up. Now, we had been married now 7 years. You ain't showed your face in my house all the time. And I could never understand it, how you could allow another man to raise your child and
you not know that man.
And you never been to his house
to see how he's living.
See how we living. That was my point. Yeah. You don't know what I'm living, how we living, what's going on. So he comes to our house. And, y'all all been over there. It's 10 mile, Southfield, Telegraph area in Southfield. He lives in Detroit, Evergreen, Joy Road area. He comes and he says, how did y'all find this place? It's so quiet. I said, well.
No gunshots, no sirens.
Absolutely.
He said Joy Road. So
yeah, you're right.
For those of you who may not be from Detroit, there's no joy on Joy Road.
Yeah, there's no joy on Joy Road.
Never has been, never will be.
I had in my mind, because I knew he was coming, I had in my mind, I was about to give him a piece of my mind about, look, bro, you need to check up on your child, This 7 years, I ain't seen a birthday card. I ain't seen nothing. So he comes and he wants to take her shopping. Okay, cool. That's no problem. And then he hit me, before I could get what I had to say out, he hit me with the thank you. I appreciate what you've done. You got a nice school. She seemed to be doing. I said, it kind of mellowed me because I was ready. I was ready to
threw you off.
Yeah. Because if we'd went in the backyard, it might have been a problem. I was ready. Let's do this. And so he takes her shopping though, y'all, and he takes her to and I'm just saying for lack of terms, he takes her to Max Green's in Northland, mall. He buys her all boy stuff. She came back with jogging suits that was. And my daughter at the time was 115, 5'3", 115 pounds. He buying her men 3Xs. I was like, who did he buy this for? You or her? So I mean,
that's nice. I take it.
Yeah, and that's what
she can't fit it.
Yeah, that's what she. I said, what is this? And I said, see, that's because you ain't been around. You don't know what to get her, whatever. So I we've had that scenario too, and it's funny. Graduated high school, same story you having.
Yep.
My daughter has since got married, and first my daughter had a daughter first as well, and that kind of brought his other children around to my daughter. So therefore, that kind of brought him in the circle too. So that's kind of how they've gotten closer because his other children are close to her. She loves having sisters, so she has 3 other sisters and a brother. And she's really close with those 3 sisters. So that brought him back in the scenario. And all in all, I think he's a good guy. I just think because she's the oldest, he wanted a boy and didn't know how to deal with not having a boy.
Okay.
And it took him 3 times before he could get to a boy, So, but I think that was really his problem. But I even know his parents. I had a relationship with his parents and didn't have one with him.
Wow.
And I was like, this don't make sense. That we seeing them and we not seeing you. You the daddy. But yeah.
I think that there is a correlation between, because I don't like the term step parent,
Right.
Like I said, because it has a negative connotation.
Definitely.
The new term is bonus. I got a bonus kid.
Yeah.
And I like that because of course, bonus is positive.
Always mean extra.
Always
Always means
plus.
extra. Yes.
Yeah.
It's never a negative.
You getting a reward. It's your
Right.
bonus. So,
Right.
I don't know what kind of reward you get for being a parent, but that's neither here nor there. So, Carl, having been around this, let me ask you, do you see a correlation between being a parent, biological, being a step parent? Because you know probably all of these stories that we talking about.
Yeah. Well, first I want to circle back, and that's kind of what we'll draw into it. If you watched our first episode on fatherhood, you asked Tony when we started out, what does it mean to be a father? And he used the word responsibility, which is what we all said that on the first episode as well. But he said love. I don't think that, I'm just thinking back, I don't think we mentioned love on the first episode when we talked about our children. We talked about, raising them to be positive human beings and being responsible and being providers. But we did not say, and we got to love them.
Well, that's because that's at the bottom.
And so a lot of times, and you'll hear this a lot of times too, people say, I love my child, but I don't like them.
Yes.
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 And, that's one of the things but I think being a step parent, you really have to have that love in there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to love that child, and not even just being a parent in general.
Mm-hmm.
But that step parent part of it, you have to love that child, and the child will feel that love.
Yeah.
You said I know all the stories, from both of them. I know these. I know both of them, just to be transparent. And I'm not gonna get into the total relationships because y'all be like, "What are you talking about on that for?" But I'm not a step parent, but there's a couple of things that's just kind of dynamics. I was raised by a step parent, and I also,
And he was the best example ever.
yeah. So I'm gonna get to that. So my wife is a step parent. So I see, I have a child from a previous relationship. So I kind of have a blended family, and then I was raised in a blended family. So I try to take the examples, as Tony said. I had a outstanding example of a step parent who led with love.
Mm-hmm.
Never felt like I was extra or, bonus is a good term. And I guess I could be considered. Before in the 70s, they sure wasn't talking about no bonuses.
No.
But I was his son.
Yep.
He was my father.
Yep.
And introduced him as such. The people in the neighborhood, when I grew up, they didn't even know that wasn't my biological father. A lot of people say, "Why you got different last names?"
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say, "Well, that's my stuff." Really? I didn't know that. So
y'all look just alike.
yeah, it's like
Right.
it was one of those types because the respect that I gave him and then the love that he showed me, there was transparent. And I try to carry that into the relationship that I have with my in my own family.
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't sat in that seat. Sometimes my wife, she'll say, "Well, why did you don't tell me everything? And sometimes you do this and I didn't know. And in my mind, and she really doesn't, sometimes she'll say, why you say that? Because I'll say it's not a big deal to me,
Mhm.
But then I have to kind of flip it and like, okay, I have to understand her perspective.
Right.
I don't want her to think that, I'm in this by myself. And she'll say that. You're not in this by yourself. If she needs something or she's in trouble, we have to help her.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of a fine line, but I never felt, and I don't want other people who may be potentially step parents or who may be in a step parent situation to think that love is not important, because it is. And you have to really, besides the provision, besides the, I gotta, put my foot down and show them that, this is what it is. The love is what's going to transfer better than anything.
Yeah, and I think that's because, it's important. You want that child to feel like they belong,
Yep.
and as men, Carl, to your point you mentioned earlier, we always say, I'm gonna be all right. But you don't realize that, you've got to put into that child, in order for them to flourish, and I want to ask real quick, Carl, from a stepmother point of view, and I guess you guys the same way, do you feel like it was important for your wife to have a relationship with your ex in regards to the child that you guys share? And I'm not saying that you pushed it, but did you ever think, well, they probably should get along?
Yeah, they should get along. I don't know. See, when I think relationship, I think like we gonna kick it.
Right.
Going to the
Yeah,
nail
Yeah,
shop.
and I'm not necessarily going there. Although we've never had a bad relationship.
There have to be respectful boundaries.
It was respectful, and I think that there was just some differences of backgrounds and differences of parenting styles that caused some discussions.
So did you feel like then that you had to facilitate that and say, hey, both of y'all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to get involved in that because one, I don't want to abdicate one, I don't want my black daughter to see two black women arguing and I'm sitting there just looking, I do want to show that, okay, this is a, triad situation. You have your mother, you have your bonus mother, and then you have your father. So you really have a lot of support. Now, we may kind of disagree about some things, but I want you to be able to see that we are talking it out. I'm one of those parents, and I know we've talked about this on multiple shows, where you have children in situations where one parent is dogging the other parent, and then they'll come around and like, again, differences in households. Never talked about my daughter's mother to her. And then I had to ask her when once she was much older, did your mom talk about me? And come to find out, she said some things. But I think once you become older, my daughter has seen you're able to see things for yourself. And she's like, okay. And I've said things to her just out of the blue, like, yeah, because this one time X, Y, and Z, and she was like, okay, I've heard this story before.
But it didn't sound like that.
It didn't sound like that.
Right.
So when I tell her, well, this is what really happened, because I take emotion out of it. I take, I'm just say, here are the facts. And she goes, that sounds a lot more sensical. Things make a lot more sense when you say it than what I've heard before. So, we make mistakes as parents. We do certain things, and looking back, could I have done some things better? Yeah. But again, as an adult, I'm able to talk to all my children and say, I know I could have done this better. Especially when they'll bring things up to me. When you did this, that, and the other. Yeah.
See, and I think that's because kids, they hold on. to stuff. They
Yeah.
remember
Everything.
everything. So, Jay, let me ask you, with your wife, was there a time where she felt like you and her ex had to have a relationship? And if that's the point, did she facilitate that, or was it him taking the initiative to come talk to you, or vice versa? How did that work?
Not at all. It didn't work at all, actually. Like I said, she met her ex. She was living in Chicago and working in Chicago, and he's still in Chicago. So when son was younger, we would alternate like summers and like holidays.
Mhm.
So we would meet halfway at Kalamazoo. We would go and that's the only time I would see him in a way. And then, like I was saying, the 8th, 12th, and graduation, like brothers like the Olympics. Like he coming around every 4 years. So I didn't really have like a relationship with him. The only time I saw him, honestly, was like dropping my son off into his car, going for the holidays and picking him back up. And that was it. She, like you said, Tony, about child support and everything like that, the child support money. She said, I don't want nothing from him.
Right.
We're gonna do just fine on our own. And this was before she, well before she met me.
Mhm.
So, as far as the relationship and everything, she didn't really have a relationship with him, like that afterward.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like she wasn't pressing it on me to kind of get to know him for any reason.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony.
Now, my wife was kind of similar to Jay's wife. Was like, I don't need him. I don't have a really relationship with him. But oddly enough, she had a relationship with his mom. She had a relationship with his dad, his sister, but not him. And going to Carl's point about sometimes, saying different things about, in front of the time when I did the, child support thing with Alexis. That was the only time she had ever heard me say anything about him, because I just didn't, I just didn't talk about it. And I didn't act like he was dead, but I just act like he's not around, so there's nothing really to talk about. And I'm glad that now they have a relationship, because they should, they should. If you see them together, she looks like him, so it's obvious that that's her dad. It's not a big deal. But I appreciate, and again, going to the point of love, she has grown to recognize that, yeah, that's my father, but he's my dad,
And there is a distinct
Yeah,
difference.
100%.
yeah, it is,
100%.
And to Jay's point, he shows up at all these different events, baby showers, weddings, all that. And to his point, he's gotten better. He's done more. Again, maybe because now he has gotten married, and has a wife and has his other children. He's had to learn to be a better parent too. But we don't have any disdain towards each other. When my daughter got married, we actually met at the tuxedo place together and got measured up and laughed and talked about it. We were actually going to go out and have drinks together afterwards, but something happened. He had to leave and couldn't make it. But we talked again at the reception. So we are cool, but we're not cool. You know what I'm saying? We passable with back and forth with each other. But no, my wife never tried to press a relationship on us, and I don't know how much she wanted to get one. She just now. I was really surprised the day that they got married. The three of them took a picture together, and I think it was just that proud parent, here's our daughter, she's getting married moment. But otherwise, nah, they
I think that, and I've never had a situation where, my ex has tried to, push me on, or my current for that matter. But I think that any relationship, especially when you're dealing with us as men, and I tell my wife all the time, it has to be organic.
Yes.
Because I'm pretty sure we've all been in situations where, the wife is trying to put you on a play date with, another
Yes.
brother. And I tell my
Yes.
wife, because she knows how I am. My
Yeah.
thing is, I think that real ones, within the first 3 minutes,
Just get
we
along.
know whether or
That's
not
right.
we
You
gonna
know
click.
what? Yep.
And I
100%.
tell you, family, I can't trust a man that don't like some type of sport. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we can talk about cornhole.
Mhm.
It has to be some. And
Yeah.
my wife, she, so I think that any relation, it has to be organic. It has to
Yeah.
build from there. Even, I tell people all the time, I'm not my kid's friend. I'm their father.
Right.
And the mother, my ex-wife, she didn't understand that because she used to say when, someone was like, you need to be closer and talk about what? I said, I'm not trying to be his friend.
Right.
We got time for that. And as he has evolved into an adult, then our friendship has changed. It's starting to grow and it's starting to be different.
Let me interrupt you there. I think that our generation and younger mothers have made a big mistake in trying to be their children's friends.
Preach.
100%.
Especially, well, and I'm gonna use Jay's wife as an example. She is one of the best that do it that I've seen do it as a mom trying to raise a son by herself, because it's a lot of them that they too friendly with them. They too cool with them, and then they don't want. Then they meet a good man as Jay, and then and his wife never did this. So I'm just saying they don't allow a man to come in and be that father figure, that male role model to their son.
Well, that's because they treat their son like that's their
They
man.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
they boy.
Yes.
So that's
I
exactly.
have a family member who has a son, and I told her when he was like 7 or 8 years old, I said, there's going to be a point, I don't know, 12, 13, to 14 to 15, you want to put your fist in his chest.
Mhm.
What are you talking about?
Yep.
I said, every young man that I know, daddy, then put that in my case, my dad died when I was 5. But my little short mama put both fists in my chest.
You had to get up on the step stool.
And then told me I will climb on top of the refrigerator and wait for you and jump down on you because I know your fat ass gonna come get something to eat. Okay, so when you come to the refrigerator, I'll be here waiting on you to whoop you again.
That's a healthy fear.
And
That's
let me
that's
tell
a
you,
healthy
I
fear.
was 9 or 10 when she told me that, and I swear until I got to be like 45, I always looked at the top of the refrigerator as I walked into a kitchen.
Turn the light on.
Yeah. Okay.
Refrigerator phobia. No,
absolutely. So I think there's a fine line with you be friendly with your kids. Of course, you want them to be able to have communication back and forth and open responsibility. But being their best friend or being hold off on that. My wife and daughter talk every day, but a lot of mothers and daughters have that close and bond, and I have no problem with it. I talk to my daughter maybe once a week, if I'm lucky, But I also want to be able to call her when it's just, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
You all right? Yeah, do you need anything? No. And I want to be able to call her when she ain't calling me to my daddy, I need.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing too, because as young adults, I know when my phone rings and I see it's one of the boys, first thing I'm thinking is what they need now.
Yes.
And I've tried, even as kids, I would tell them, dude, keep in touch with people.
Yeah.
So that way when you do need something, they don't feel like they're being used.
Absolutely.
And I think especially, from a step parent role, my stepson is older and he's trying things, and that generation there, I think that I don't want to, lost. So they're trying to find their way.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the challenges of being a parent is we get tired of saying the same thing over and over again. So, you have to think, when is it going to click?
Let me give you an analogy. Jay recently said to me, we were talking about TV. And Jay said it's just too much, I forgot the term you used, too much
content.
Too much content.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem with kids now. They have too much content.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to the, phone, they go to the internet, they look at TV, they talk all. When we were growing up, you had your parents and your uncles and aunts, your grandparents. That was it.
Yeah. You talking about TV, and I mentioned this before. I had a 13-inch black and white TV up through college, and it wasn't even no name brand. It was KTV.
That's it
from Kmart.
Yes,
in an orange case.
And when you talk about that being too much content, you look at the assembly line. Just the assembly line as a concept. It started in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
It is 2024. there's still the assembly line.
Right.
There's still men and women now who
Mhm.
man the assembly line.
Right.
There's been some changes. There's been some modifications. There's been some upgrades that, technology, but the cars are still built the same way they were built.
Yes.
Then. So it's the same thing. There's a blueprint. Parenting is a blueprint. And yes, there's a lot of content. So it's like, oh, we got a better way of doing things. No, you don't. Do it this way.
Right.
You may modify some things. I may not,
Right.
they got child labor laws now. So,
Right.
I can't make the 10-year-old work the coal mine no more. That probably wasn't a good idea in the first place. So, okay, we get that. I don't have to, there's discipline. Discipline has changed.
Yes.
I don't have to beat the kid every time they, misspell the word "the" and all that kind of stuff, So, but
Tomorrow. That's the word they misspelled.
I can't even get.
See, that's what I'm saying, right?
I can't spell tomorrow.
Now with text messages, a 2 and a tomorrow.
Yeah, I can't get
the number 2.
right. Exactly. That's almost how I got to spell it now. But that's the thing. It's like, let's not abandon what got us here.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's continue to say, and whether it be, whatever type of parenting you have, if you've got single parent household, dual parent, there's a way to raise that child. And if you are in a single parent household, okay, like you said, Tony, I need some male role models somewhere.
Mhm.
It's got to be an uncle, it's got to be a cousin, it's got to be somebody, a neighbor even.
If you remember when I got married, you guys, they were in my wedding, so they understand. When I got married, I proposed to my daughter also at the wedding. And I told her, there's no book to being a parent. I don't know everything. I said, but if I do something you don't like, talk to these guys that are standing up here with me. I said, because all of them are good male role models.
And that's where we have to continue having that brotherhood of fathers, because we need to support one another. And like I mentioned previously, we need to hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
And that support group means that you love one another, where I can come to you and I can say, hey, man, you shouldn't have did that.
Right. Yes.
Or vice versa. Because and I've said this before, I should be able to come to anybody and talk to you about anything as long as I bring it to you with love and respect.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like it, you got to respect the fact
respect
that I'm bringing it to you. I think that we as fathers, we take a lot of heat. We have to be strong, for lack of a better term, because we're a protector, we're a provider, we're a teacher, we're a guide, we're all of this. And I think that for me, just to go into, we know that there are challenges, but when we talk about triumphs, for me, one of the biggest triumphs is, having my kids come and thank me for a lesson or some advice that I've given them. So I'll say, Jay, to date, what would you say are your 1-2 biggest triumphs being a dad?
That's a good question. Getting him through, I think, like high school, college years, I think are some of the best. And I'll take that back. Getting him through school, and elementary until college, I think are big triumphs, because there's so much that goes on at that time. I mean, socially, how your body's changing, your friends groups are changing, things like that, and just making sure that he is like just a good citizen, a good person. That's my whole goal. I didn't want him to be, like I said, following the wrong crowd or trying to be something that he's not, and just be himself and be happy with that.
Yep.
And that's the whole thing. And I think that's the biggest triumph for me, is because he's his own individual. He's his own person. He has his own likes and dislikes. And that, to me, I think that's what we wanted to teach him and push it to him.
So let me ask you then, can you remember the time where someone has given you your flowers as a parent? Because one of the things we talk about is when other people compliment you through your kid. He's a good kid. And now you like, oh, wait a minute, let me stick my chest out. That's me. I did that.
Yeah.
So first time that happened to you.
First time that happened.
You didn't cry, did you?
I almost did. I almost did. And it was like, because we were at a parent-teacher conference. And my wife and I were there, and they were just saying, you raised a great son. You raised, he's respectable. He's smart. He's ambitious. He's doing everything right, and I can see great things for him. And I think it's because it's what you all established at on the ground level. And I'm like, I appreciate that.
Mhm.
But it was very early on, and I want to say that had to be like his 6th, 7th grade year when we got that. But that was everything to me. So I knew I was doing something right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Tony?
A similar scenario. My daughter's junior high school, she happened to, one of her teachers happened to go to high school with me. So, unbeknownst to my daughter and myself, but when we get to the parent-teachers conference, she says, we have to go see Mrs. Adams. I said, okay. So, we, you do get in line. Miss Adams? No, that's not her name. Her name is, such. No, that's what I'm saying. So, we get there to the front of the table, and she looks up at me, and she jumps up and hugs me. And my wife is like, whoa, wait, what's going on here? And I'm like, no. I said, I've been knowing her since 8th grade, and we went through high school together. I said, she's Chris. I said, she's really good. I said, her name wasn't Adams then, but that's okay. And before she said, I said, yeah, this is our daughter. And she says, well, let me tell you, she's doing really good, and she's really good. And I said, well, listen, we old school. We've been together. You know me. I said, if you think it's a problem with her, handle it as your mother or my mother would have handled it. Then call us, and we're going to handle it a second time. Okay? I said, we need to have a meeting, and don't. You got to snatch her in the hallway, do what you got to do. And then that was going into 7th grade. So when she graduated 8th grade, she came to me and said, I never had to snatch her up. And I was like, okay. That's good to know. I'm happy to hear that. She said, no, she was always respectful. And I think she was always afraid that you was going to come up here. I said, oh, yeah, I was. I mean, if you would have called, I was coming because I know what you meant in that. So, yeah, that was my moment similar to his.
I always said, even before I became a parent, that for me to be successful, I would measure my success in terms of if I could do half the job on my kids that my parents did on me, I would be okay.
Yep.
And I think that we all can probably share in the sentiment that being parents, we've taken things, both good and bad, from our parents. So the stuff that we know worked, okay, I'm going to use that.
Right.
Stuff that didn't, I ain't never do that.
Yeah, right. I ain't doing that. You absolutely right.
Exactly. I think that, being a father, number one, and I've said this before too, it's the hardest job I've ever done, but there's a certain amount of joy in it because you see, the fruits of your labor at the end of the day. I think that for the most part, the one thing that we have in common is that we're striving to develop God-fearing, independent thinking, productive members of society. And where we will fall, there's a lesson to be learned from it. And I'm thankful to have a partner, my wife, who is able to say, hey, let's not do it that way. And, for us as men, a lot of times it's hard to relinquish that control because we think we know things, but we don't. So to take what your partner is saying into consideration and say, okay, you know what, you're right. It helps. And even for dads that are single out there.
You might want to edit that part out. But anyway.
They know.
Yes, they do.
But I think it's incumbent upon us to just, keep working at it. Keep working at it. Because again, we know what we want the end result to be. God has a plan for all of us. Right. I think that it's something that, once we start getting into the parenting thing, and when you become a grandparent, I'm not there yet, Tony.
Yes.
You are.
2.
Lord. Okay. So, we want to make sure that we're passing these things down, that we're paying it forward. And when you see your kids doing some of the same things that you've done in a positive way, it makes you feel good.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that we're all, continuing to give each other our flowers. Family, we want to say where, parenting is a hard job, but we're doing our very best. And brothers, Black fathers, get you that support system because it is definitely going to help. I think that these brothers sitting here, again, we've known each other forever. I can remember when Jay was a little fella. And he can remember when me and Carl had Jerry curls.
Had Jerry curls in hair.
Hey, we don't have
Right.
So,
I'm done.
But that being said,
I have pictures to prove it.
We're going to see y'all next time, but we want you guys to stay prayerful, stay positive, stay patient, stay peaceful. Thanks a lot.